I sat at the head of the long marble dining table in my own penthouse, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. 68 candles burned on the cake flown in from Paris that morning. The flames danced across the crystal glasses. My son Derek walked in wearing a charcoal suit that cost $14,000. His wife Vanessa followed, phone already recording for her Instagram stories. No hug, no "Happy birthday, Mom." Instead, Derek placed a thick manila envelope on the white tablecloth right next to my untouched plate. The seal of the Cook County Probate Court stared back at me in bold black ink. "Happy birthday, Mother," he said, voice smooth as the silk tie around his neck. "The court has declared you mentally incompetent. Effective immediately, I am the sole trustee of the Harrington Family Trust." The room went still. Even the candles seemed to stop flickering. I looked down at the document. Petition for guardianship and conservatorship. My name, Eleanor Harrington, listed as respondent. And there, on page 3, was my own signature, perfectly forged, dated 3 weeks ago. Derek leaned in slightly, the same half-smile I had taught him when he was 6 years old and learning how to negotiate with the nanny. "Sign the acceptance form, Mother. Or we'll have you evicted from this penthouse by Friday. The movers are already on standby." Vanessa kept filming, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light. She smiled for the camera, like this was just another luxury unboxing video. I felt the weight of every year I had poured into that trust. After my husband died 23 years ago, the trust held only $2.1 million. I grew it, quietly, methodically, to $47 million, while raising Derek alone, while skipping vacations, while attending every parent-teacher meeting in the same sensible navy suit. And now this. I picked up the pen they had placed beside the envelope. My hand did not shake. Derek's eyes lit up with triumph, but I did not sign. Instead, I slid the entire stack back across the marble. The papers stopped right in front of his Platinum Centurion card, the one he loved flashing at every charity gala. "You made one mistake, Derek," I said, voice low and even. "You forgot whose name is still on the original trust documents." His smile faltered for half a second. Vanessa lowered the phone. "Ellie, this is for your own good. You've been confused lately. We're only trying to protect the family legacy." I stood up slowly. The silk of my blouse whispered against the chair. "Protect?" I repeated the word like it tasted foreign. Interesting choice of verb. I walked to the sideboard, poured myself a glass of the 2015 Chateau Margaux I had been saving for this exact night. One sip. Calm. Measured. Derek stepped closer. "Mother, the judge already reviewed the medical reports. Dr. Langford confirmed early cognitive decline. It's all very standard." Dr. Langford? The same doctor who had received a new Porsche from Derek last Christmas. Of course. I set the glass down with a soft clink. "Leave the papers," I told him. "I'll have my attorney look at them in the morning." Vanessa laughed, a bright, practiced sound. "Your attorney? Oh, Ellie, we already spoke to Marcus. He agreed this was the kindest option." Marcus Reed, my former estate attorney of 28 years, the one who had helped me structure the trust after my husband's funeral. I felt the first real crack in my chest. Not tears, something colder. Derek checked his Rolex. "We have a dinner reservation at Alinea. The car is waiting. Sign quickly and we can still make it." He actually believed I would sign away everything I had built so he could keep the reservation. I looked at my son. Really looked. The expensive haircut, the gym-toned jaw, the eyes that once begged me to read him one more bedtime story. Those eyes now calculated how fast he could liquidate the trust into his hedge fund. "Get out," I said. The words left my mouth quiet, almost gentle. Derek blinked. "Excuse me?" "Get out of my penthouse, both of you." Vanessa's mouth opened in a perfect O. She glanced at Derek for direction. He straightened his tie. "You're making this difficult, Mother. The sheriff's deputy will be here at 9 a.m. tomorrow if you refuse to cooperate. Pack light." The new assisted living facility has a strict 2-suitcase policy. I walked to the double doors and held one open. The Chicago wind slipped in from the balcony, carrying the faint smell of the lake. Derek picked up the envelope. He tucked it under his arm like a victory flag. As they stepped into the private elevator, Vanessa turned back for one last shot at the camera.
"Love you, Ellie. This is all for your protection."
The doors closed. I stood alone in the sudden silence. The 68 candles had begun to drip wax onto the $5,000 cake. I blew them out. One by one, each flame died with a tiny hiss. Then I sat back down at the head of the table. I opened the envelope again. My forged signature stared up at me, confident and steady. I traced it with one finger. Years of 4 a.m. conference calls with London banks. Years of saying no to Derek's requests for just another 100,000 for his first startup that failed. Years of watching him buy watches while I drove the same Mercedes for 12 years. All of it reduced to this single piece of paper. I picked up my phone. The screen showed 3 missed calls from Marcus Reed. I did not call him back. Not yet. Instead, I opened the secure cloud folder I had maintained since the day Derek turned 18. 14 years of untouched bank statements, trust ledgers, wire transfer confirmations. Emails where Derek referred to me as the old lady who still controls the purse strings. The numbers were all there. $312,000 redirected last quarter alone into Vanessa's lifestyle brand LLC. $1.2 million in consulting fees paid to shell companies in Delaware. Every so-called birthday gift he had ever given me, taken straight from the trust principal. I closed the folder. My reflection in the dark window looked back at me. 68 years old, hair still perfectly styled, shoulders straight, not a single tear. I whispered to the empty room, voice steady as the lake outside. "You should have waited until I was actually dead, Derek." I stood up, walked to the bedroom, and began packing the first of 2 suitcases. Not because I was leaving quietly, because tomorrow morning, when the deputy arrived with the eviction notice, I wanted to be ready. Ready with every document, every receipt, every cold, undeniable number. The game had changed, and I had just been handed the entire deck. I zipped the suitcase shut. The sound echoed through the penthouse like the first click of a loaded chamber. What happened the next morning would change everything. But that night, I slept in my own bed for the last time. Dreamless, focused, and completely unafraid. The knock came at exactly 8:47 a.m., sharp, official. 3 measured raps on the penthouse door. I opened it, still wearing the navy silk robe from the night before. 2 sheriff's deputies stood in the hallway, papers in hand. Behind them, 2 uniformed movers waited with dollies. "Eleanor Harrington?" the older deputy asked. "Yes." He handed me the eviction notice. "Court order. You have 1 hour to vacate. Mr. Derek Harrington has been appointed emergency conservator. This property is now under his control." I scanned the document. My forged signature appeared again, this time on the acceptance line. The judge's stamp looked fresh. The younger deputy shifted his weight. "Ma'am, we can help you pack if needed, but we have to enforce the order." I stepped aside. "No need. I already prepared 2 suitcases. They're by the door." The movers looked surprised. They had expected resistance, tears, perhaps a scene. There was none. I walked back inside, picked up the smaller suitcase, and handed it to the nearest mover. The larger one followed. "Everything else stays," I said. "The art, the furniture, the wine cellar. Tell my son to enjoy it." One of the deputies cleared his throat. "There's also a temporary restraining order in place. You are not to contact Mr. Harrington or enter any trust-controlled properties without permission. I nodded once. Understood. They escorted me to the private elevator. The doors closed on the view of Lake Michigan one final time. The ride down 42 floors was silent. Outside, a black town car waited at the curb. Not for me, for Derek, who stood there checking his phone. Vanessa leaned against the hood in cream cashmere, filming the entire exit for her stories. I walked past them without a word. Derek looked up. "Mother, you're making this harder than it needs to be." I stopped, turned. The morning light caught the platinum card in his breast pocket. "Harder?" I repeated. "Interesting. I spent 23 years making sure you never had to learn what hard actually feels like." Vanessa lowered her phone. "Ellie, please, this is temporary. Once the trust is stabilized, we'll revisit everything." Stabilized. The word landed like a slap wrapped in velvet. I looked at my son. "How much did you move yesterday? 312,000? Or did you wait until after the cake was cut?" Derek's jaw tightened. "That money is for the family. You wouldn't understand the current market pressure." I smiled. Small. Cold. Market pressure, of course. I turned and walked toward the corner. A yellow cab waited exactly where I had arranged it the night before. As I climbed in, I heard Vanessa's voice carry across the sidewalk. "She's clearly not well. Did you see how calm she was? That's not normal." The cab pulled away. I gave the driver the address in Oak Park. A modest one-bedroom apartment I had quietly kept in my own name for years. Insurance, I had called it. The building was quiet. Red brick, no doorman, no lake view. I carried the 2 suitcases up one flight of stairs myself. Inside, the space smelled of fresh paint and nothing else. 1 couch, 1 bed, a small kitchen table. I set the suitcases down and sat on the edge of the bed. For the first time since the candles were blown out, the full weight pressed in. Not grief, not self-pity, a clean, surgical anger. I opened my laptop on the kitchen table. First email, to Marcus Reed. Subject line, emergency meeting, today. Second, to my former assistant at the trustee office. Access logs for the Harrington Trust. All dates. Send encrypted. Third, to the forensic accountant I had used years ago on a delicate estate matter. I need you. Full discretion. Triple your usual rate. Then I opened the cloud folder again. 14 years of records. Every wire, every distribution, every gift Derek had claimed came from his own pocket, but had actually been siphoned from the principal. One line caught my eye. $40,000 transferred to Vanessa's LLC the week after she posted about needing a new content studio. Another. $1.2 million over 18 months, labeled as Family Wellness Consulting. I highlighted them all, color-coded, red for unauthorized, yellow for suspicious, green for outright theft. The spreadsheet grew to 47 pages by noon. My phone buzzed. Marcus Reed. "Ellie, I just saw the petition. This is aggressive. I'm clearing my afternoon." "Good," I said. "Bring every file we ever worked on together. And Marcus, check the medical reports attached." Dr. Langford signed them. He paused. "Langford? The one who—" "Yes, the one who drives the new Porsche." Marcus exhaled. "Jesus." "No," I replied. "Just paperwork. And numbers. Numbers don't lie." I hung up and continued working. By 3 o'clock, the forensic accountant, a quiet woman named Rachel Park, arrived with 2 large monitors. We set them up on the tiny kitchen table. She scrolled through the statements I provided. Her fingers moved fast. "These withdrawals," she said, "they're not even hidden well. Look at this one. 280,000 to a personal Venmo account last quarter, labeled reimbursement. Reimbursement for what?" I leaned back. For breathing, apparently. Rachel glanced at me.
You're very calm.
Calm is the only weapon they left me, I answered. We worked until the streetlights came on outside. Total identified, 8.7 million in questionable movements over 4 years. Rachel printed the summary, 12 pages.
Ellie, this isn't just incompetence. This is self-dealing.
Criminal self-dealing if we can prove intent. I folded the pages neatly. Then we prove intent. She packed her monitors.
I'll have the full report in 72 hours, with timestamps, with IP addresses, with everything.
After she left, I made a single cup of tea. No milk, no sugar. I stood at the small window overlooking the quiet street. My reflection looked back, hair still perfect, posture straight. But inside, the crack from last night had widened into something sharper, a blade, polished, ready. The phone rang again, unknown number. I answered.
Mother.
Derek's voice, strained now. The bank called. They're questioning some transfers. They want original authorization documents. I took a slow sip of tea. Did they? Silence on his end. Mother, fix this. Call them. Tell them it's all a misunderstanding. I'll increase your allowance. $50,000 a month. Cash. No questions. $50,000. The same amount he once called pocket change when asking for more. I set the cup down. Derek, I said, voice even. You declared me mentally incompetent this morning. A mentally incompetent woman cannot authorize anything. You made sure of that. He exhaled hard. This is getting out of hand. Vanessa is upset. Liam keeps asking where you are. Liam, I repeated. My grandson, 17. The only one who still called me grandma without calculation in his eyes. Tell him I'm fine. Mother. I hung up. The apartment was quiet again. I opened the restraining order paperwork the deputies had left with me. Temporary. 30 days. Enough time. I sat back down at the table and began drafting my first counter affidavit. Page 1. I, Eleanor Harrington, being of sound mind and body. The words flowed. Clean. Factual. Each sentence 12 to 18 words, short where it needed to cut. By midnight, the draft was 43 pages. I saved it. Then I stood, stretched once, and walked to the bed. 2 suitcases still sat by the door, unopened. Because I had not truly unpacked, I was not staying here long. Not as a victim. Tomorrow, Marcus would arrive with reinforcements. Tomorrow, the quiet collection of evidence would accelerate, and somewhere across town, in the penthouse I once called home, Derek would check his bank apps and see the first quiet flags appearing. He thought he had disowned me. He had only handed me the match. I turned off the light. In the dark, I allowed myself one small thought. Not rage, not sorrow. Just 4 cold words. This is only part 2. The apartment door clicked shut behind me at 1:58 a.m. I did not turn on the overhead light, only the small desk lamp. Its glow fell across the kitchen table like a surgical spotlight. I sat down in the single wooden chair, laptop open, cloud folder unlocked. 14 years of records stared back at me. I started at the top. First transfer, March 17th, 2011. $40,000 pulled from the trust principal, labeled in Derek's personal ledger as Mom's birthday gift. My actual birthday that year had passed with a store-bought card and no cash. Next line. June 24th, 2012. Another $40,000. Same label, same lie. I kept scrolling. By 3 a.m., the pattern was a blade. 160 entries. Every single so-called gift, every tuition supplement, every emergency check Derek had waved in front of his friends had been carved straight from the 47 million I built. I opened the email archive next. Vanessa's name appeared in subject lines I had never seen. Consulting Agreement, Harrington Wellness LLC, signed by Derek as acting trustee. Dated the same week she launched her luxury real estate influencer page. $1.2 million funneled through 3 shell companies in Delaware. Each invoice described services that did not exist. I highlighted them in red. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. Mine stayed steady. At 2:17 a.m., I dialed Marcus Reed. He answered on the second ring, voice rough with sleep. "Ellie, it's 2 in the morning.
I know what time it is, Marcus. I need you here. Oak Park address I sent yesterday. Bring every file we ever touched on the Harrington Trust."
A pause. The sound of him sitting up. "Give me 40 minutes. He arrived at 2:51 a.m., coat rumpled, tie missing, eyes sharp the moment he saw the spreadsheets covering my table. I poured him black coffee, no sugar. Marcus sat. He read the first page in silence, then the second. His fingers stopped on the $40,000 birthday lines. "These are the gifts he bragged about at the club," he said quietly. "I was there. He called you generous." I nodded once. Marcus kept reading. His face changed when he reached the shell company payments. "Vanessa's LLC. Correct." He leaned back. "Ellie, this is not sloppy. This is deliberate. They built a paper trail that looks legitimate until you stand it next to the original trust deed." I slid the next folder across. 14 years of my own handwritten notes. Every board meeting. Every distribution I had personally approved. Marcus flipped through them. His breathing slowed. "You kept everything. Always." We worked until the sky outside turned pale gray. Rachel Park, the forensic accountant, arrived at 6:30. She carried 2 monitors and a hard drive the size of a brick. No small talk. She plugged in, imported my files, and began cross-referencing wire origins. At 7:45, she spoke for the first time. "Found the IP addresses. All withdrawals were authorized from Derek's home office desktop." The one in the penthouse. Same MAC address every time. I poured fresh coffee for all of us. Marcus rubbed his eyes. "The medical reports are the weak link. Dr. Langford's signature is on the incompetence petition, but the exam notes are missing. No cognitive test results attached." I allowed myself one small sound, not a laugh, a breath. "Because there was no exam." Rachel looked up. "We can subpoena the doctor's full patient file, but it will take time." "Time is the one thing I have now," I said. Marcus closed the last folder. He stared at me across the tiny table. "Ellie, this is criminal. Wire fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, possible forgery on the petition itself. But to win, you'll have to prove your own son tried to bury you alive." The words hung in the small apartment. I met his eyes. "Then that is exactly what we will prove." Rachel printed the first 30-page summary, numbers in neat columns, red flags everywhere. Marcus stood. "I'll file the motion to vacate the conservatorship this morning. We request an emergency hearing within 14 days. Until then, stay quiet. No calls, no posts. Let them think you're broken." I walked them both to the door. Marcus paused on the threshold. "You built that trust from 2.1 million to 47, alone, after Richard died. They forgot that part." "I never did," I replied. The door closed. I returned to the table. The spreadsheet still glowed. I added one more column. Date, amount, description. My planned countermove. Next to the 1.2 million consulting fees, I typed Exhibit A, bank wire log plus Delaware corporate filings. My fingers did not tremble. Outside, Chicago traffic began its morning crawl. Inside, the quiet grew heavier. I stood up, walked to the window, and watched a single leaf fall from the oak tree across the street. It reminded me of something Derek once said at age 12. "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to take care of you the way you take care of me." I had believed him. The leaf hit the sidewalk and disappeared under a passing tire. My phone vibrated on the table. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. Derek's voice came through, low and urgent. "Mother, the bank just flagged 7 wire transfers. They want proof of authorization by close of business today." "What did you do?" I looked at the spreadsheet, at the red column, at the exact transfers he meant. I said nothing. "Mother, talk to me. This is serious. They're threatening to freeze the entire trust." I took one slow breath. Then I spoke. 5 words. "You should have read the fine print." I ended the call. The apartment was silent again. I sat back down. Rachel would return at noon with the next layer of documents. Marcus would file the motion before lunch. And somewhere in the penthouse that used to be mine, Derek was watching his carefully built empire begin to crack. Not with a shout, not with a scene, with numbers. Cold. Undeniable. I closed the laptop for a moment. One thought only. This is only part 3. The real silence had just begun. The motion arrived by courier at 10:12 a.m. I signed for the envelope without expression. The return address read, Harrington Family Trust, Emergency Conservatorship Proceedings. Inside, Derek's latest filing. Motion to freeze all personal accounts. He claimed I was a flight risk, that I might drain the remaining trust assets and disappear. The judge's clerk had already stamped it received, hearing scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. I set the papers on the kitchen table beside Rachel's latest report, 47 specific instances of financial self-dealing, each one numbered, dated, and cross-referenced to bank statements. Marcus arrived 20 minutes later. He read the motion once, then twice. "Flight risk," he muttered. "That's rich. You haven't left the state in 8 years." I poured him coffee, black. "We file the counter affidavit today," I said. "Before close of business, every line of it." Rachel looked up from her second monitor. "I have the exhibits ready, 47 pages, color-coded, bank statements attached in chronological order. The judge will see the pattern in under 10 minutes. Marcus nodded. "I'll add the request for a temporary restraining order. No contact, no entry to this address, not even a text." I sat down and began dictating the opening paragraph. My voice stayed level. 12 words, then 14. Short where it needed to cut. "I, Eleanor Harrington, being of sound mind and body, hereby state the following under penalty of perjury." We worked through lunch, no breaks. By 2:40 p.m., the affidavit was complete. 83 pages. Every unauthorized withdrawal listed with exact dollar amounts. $312,000 redirected to Vanessa's Lifestyle Brand, LLC, last quarter alone. $1.2 million in phantom consulting fees. The forged medical reports attached as Exhibit 12. Marcus scanned the final page. "This is surgical, Ellie. No emotion, just numbers. The judge will love it." He left to file it electronically from his car. Rachel packed her monitors. "I'll be back at 8 tonight with the bank's preliminary response. They're already asking questions about the flagged wires." The apartment fell quiet again. I stood at the small window. Oak leaves moved in the afternoon breeze. My platinum card had been reactivated that morning. The custodial bank had reviewed the original trust deed and flagged the incompetence ruling as procedurally defective. A quiet victory, one I did not celebrate. I made tea, no milk. At 4:17 p.m., my phone lit up. Vanessa's Instagram story. She had posted a tearful video, soft lighting, designer couch in the background, the penthouse I once owned. "Oh my God, guys," she said, voice cracking perfectly for the camera. "Ellie, my mother-in-law, has abandoned her only grandson. She won't even answer Liam's calls. This is breaking our family apart. If you see her, please tell her we still love her." The comments poured in, hundreds, sympathy emojis, prayers. I closed the app. No anger, only the same cold calculation. Marcus called at 5:05 p.m. "Filed and served," he said. The judge granted the temporary restraining order within the hour. Derek and Vanessa are barred from contacting you or entering this building, effective immediately. I exhaled once. Good. He paused. Ellie, the bank statements you attached did the work. The judge looked at the 47 instances and actually raised an eyebrow. We have momentum. I hung up. The restraining order papers arrived by courier at 6:22 p.m. I signed for them. The deputy who delivered them nodded once, almost respectfully. I placed the document on the table next to the motion to freeze my accounts. 2 pieces of paper, one trying to bury me, one beginning to pull me out. I ate a simple dinner, grilled chicken, rice, no wine. At 11:47 p.m., the knock came, soft, hesitant. I opened the door with the chain still latched. Liam stood in the hallway, 17 years old, black eye blooming under his left socket, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder.
"Grandma," he whispered. "Dad said if I speak to you again, he'll cut me off too."
I unlatched the chain. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him. I did not hug him. Not yet. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, took a bag of frozen peas from the freezer and handed it to him. Hold this to your eye. Sit. Liam dropped the duffel. He sat at the table. The restraining order papers were still there. He glanced at them, but said nothing. I poured him water. No ice.
"He hit you?" I asked.
Liam shook his head.
"Not him. One of his hedge fund guys. Dad told him I was asking too many questions about the trust. Said I was disloyal. Just like you."
The words landed clean. I sat across from him. 17 years old, I said. And already learning what loyalty costs in this family. Liam pressed the peas to his eye, his voice cracked. Not for the camera. Real.
"Grandma, he froze my credit card this morning. Said if I choose you, I choose nothing. No college fund, no apartment next year, nothing."
I looked at my grandson, the same eyes I once saw in Derek at that age, but different, still soft at the edges. I reached across the table and turned the restraining order so he could read the judge's signature. "This paper says your father cannot contact me," I told him. "It does not say anything about you." Liam's shoulders dropped half an inch. I stood up, walked to the small closet, took out the spare blanket and pillow I had bought 2 days ago. "You sleep on the couch tonight," I said. "Tomorrow we talk about college funds that were never his to touch." He looked up at me. "You're not mad?" I folded the blanket once, precise corners. "Mad wastes time," I answered. "I prefer numbers." Liam almost smiled. The bruise made it crooked. I turned off the main light, left only the desk lamp. From the bedroom doorway, I looked back once. My grandson lay on the couch, duffel bag beside him like a lifeline. The black eye was already turning purple, but his breathing had slowed. Safe. For now. I closed my bedroom door. In the dark, I allowed myself one thought. Derek had just lost the only card he still held, his own son, and tomorrow the hearing would begin. I lay down fully dressed. The apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. This is only part 4. The real pressure had just started. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains at 6:43 a.m. Liam was still asleep on the couch, black eye swollen shut, duffel bag untouched on the floor. I made coffee, 2 cups, black. He stirred when I set one beside him. "Grandma," he said, voice thick. "I'm sorry I showed up like this." I sat across from him. "Sorry wastes energy," I replied. "Drink the coffee, then we work." He blinked. 17 years old and already learning the rules. Rachel Park arrived at 7:15. She carried a fresh hard drive and 3 new binders. No greeting. She simply plugged in and opened last night's files. Liam watched from the couch, silent. Rachel pointed at the screen.
"We have the full trace now. $8.7 million in undisclosed withdrawals over 4 years. Every dollar routed through Vanessa's LLC or Derek's personal trading accounts.
The bank's own audit trail shows IP matches to the penthouse router. I leaned in. Break it down by quarter, I said. She did. First quarter, $1.9 million, labeled Legacy Planning. Second, $2.4 million, Family Wellness Retreat. The numbers stacked like bricks in a wall I was about to tear down. Liam stood up slowly. He walked to the table and stared at the columns.
"That's my college fund," he whispered. "Dad said it was gone because of market losses."
Rachel did not look up. Market losses don't wire to private jets in the Cayman Islands. I poured Liam more coffee. "Sit," I told him. "You're part of this now." At 9 a.m., Marcus Reed called. 3 retired judges agreed to meet you this afternoon. Off the record. Judge Harlan, Judge Voss, Judge Hale. All of them presided over trusts you administered in the 90s. They remember you. I checked the clock. Send the car at 2. Neutral location. No paper trail. Marcus paused. Ellie, this is delicate. The mental competence restoration hearing is rare. We need their guidance on precedent. I know the precedent, I said. I wrote half of it. The meeting took place in a private conference room at a small law library on the north side. No windows, no phones allowed inside. Judge Harlan arrived first, 81 years old, still razor sharp.
Eleanor, he said, shaking my hand. I read the petition. Forgery this clean is almost admirable.
Judge Voss followed. She carried a single yellow legal pad.
You built that trust from $2.1 million, she said. I saw the filings. Now they call you incompetent.
Irony is a luxury we cannot afford today. Judge Hale closed the door last. They sat. I laid out the 83-page affidavit, Rachel's summary on top. For 40 minutes, they read in silence. Judge Voss spoke first. The restoration hearing is your path. File within 7 days. Attach every bank statement. The judge will see the pattern. But you must prove 2 things. 1, the original petition was fraudulent. 2, your competence was never impaired. Judge Harlan tapped the table once. Bring Liam as a witness if he's willing. Blood testimony carries weight. And get the bank to confirm the flagged wires before the hearing. That will freeze Derek's access cold. Judge Hale leaned back. Stay stoic in court. No emotion. Judges hate drama. They love documents. I took notes. 12 words per line. Clean. Liam waited in the outer hallway. When we emerged, he stood straighter. The judges shook my hand one by one. Judge Voss held my gaze longest. You once saved my sister's estate from a greedy son, she said. Today, we return the favor. Back in the apartment at 5 p.m., the work continued. Rachel projected the gala invitation on her screen. Derek had sent it to 200 contacts. Harrington Family Legacy Fund launch, tonight, 7 p.m., the Peninsula Hotel, black tie, announcing a new philanthropic initiative funded by the Harrington Trust. Funded by the trust I built. Liam scrolled through Vanessa's Instagram. Live updates already rolling in. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, waiters in white gloves. Derek stood at the podium in his $14,000 suit. Today we honor the values my mother taught me, he said to the crowd. Integrity, stewardship, family first. The applause was loud enough for the phone speaker to crackle. I watched without expression. Rachel printed the gala expense report. $280,000 charged to the trust that afternoon. Flowers, catering, valet, all approved by Derek as sole trustee. Add it to Exhibit 48, I said. Liam's phone buzzed. He silenced it. Dad just texted me, he said. Said if I don't come home tonight, he's revoking my trust disbursement too. I looked at my grandson. Tell him you're exactly where you need to be. He typed, sent. then turned the phone off. Night fell. We worked until 1 a.m. Rachel closed her laptop. The full forensic report is ready for filing tomorrow. 8.7 million documented. Intent proven by pattern and timing. She left. Liam made up the couch again. I sat at the table alone. One lamp on. The numbers glowed on the screen. Clean columns. Undeniable. At 3:02 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Vanessa's voice came through, shaking, not the polished Instagram tone.
Eleanor, the bank just flagged 7 wire transfers.
They want proof of authorization by 9 a.m. Derek is screaming at me. He's throwing things. What did you do? I let the silence stretch 3 full seconds. Then I spoke, calm, measured. I did what any competent trustee would do. She breathed hard. He's saying you're behind this. That you're trying to destroy him. Eleanor, please, call the bank, fix it. We can still work something out. I looked at the spreadsheet, at the exact 7 transfers she meant, each one highlighted in red. I ended the call without another word. The apartment was quiet again. Liam stirred on the couch but did not wake. I stood up, walked to the window. Chicago slept below, street lights steady, Lake Michigan dark and still. Derek's gala was probably still winding down, champagne flowing, speeches echoing, while here, in a 1-bedroom apartment he had tried to banish me to, the real work had just accelerated. The underground alliance was complete. Judges, accountant, grandson, attorney, all moving in silence, all armed with numbers. I returned to the table, saved the file. Then I allowed myself one small thought before turning off the lamp. This is only part 5. The pressure was no longer quiet. It had begun to scream. The settlement offer arrived by courier at 9:17 a.m. I signed for the envelope in the same navy robe, no expression. Inside, a single page from Derek's attorney, crisp letterhead, gold embossed seal. Proposed resolution, $750,000, one-time payment, wired within 48 hours. In exchange, I would drop every claim, sign a full gag order, and never speak of the trust again. The attorney's note at the bottom was polite, almost gentle. This offer reflects our client's deep desire for family harmony. I read it twice, then I set it on the kitchen table beside Rachel's latest binder. Liam watched from the couch, black eye fading to yellow. $750,000, he said. That's what he thinks you're worth? I poured coffee. Black. That's what he thinks silence is worth. Rachel arrived at 10. She saw the letter and laughed once. Short. Cold.
Gag order. Cute.
Marcus joined us by video at 10:30. His face filled the screen. Reject it in writing, he said. Then file the opposition brief. I have the template ready. 187 pages, color-coded exhibits, every withdrawal highlighted, every forged signature flagged. I nodded once. We worked without pause. By 2 p.m., the brief was filed, electronically, with the court, with the bank, with the Illinois Attorney General's office for good measure. Page 1 opened with my statement. I, Eleanor Harrington, reject the settlement offer in full. The trust I built is not for sale. The exhibits followed. Red for theft, yellow for forgery, green for lies told under oath. $312,000 to Vanessa's LLC last quarter. $1.2 million in phantom consulting fees. $8.7 million total. All documented. All undeniable. Marcus called back at 3. Filed and served, he said. The judge has moved the hearing up. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Cook County Probate. I closed the laptop. At 4 p.m., the bank called. Not Derek's contact, the senior trust officer. Voice professional, almost apologetic. Ms. Harrington, we reviewed the original trust deed against the incompetence petition. The ruling appears based on forged documents. Your Platinum card has been reactivated. Full access restored. The limit is 1 million, as before. I thanked him. No warmth. The card arrived by messenger 30 minutes later. Black, heavy, Centurion logo raised. I placed it on the table next to the rejected settlement letter. Old clients began calling at 5. First, Mrs. Langford, the widow whose estate I had managed in '98. "Ellie, I saw the filing." I told my daughter, "We're all behind you." Then Mr. Whitaker, the steel magnate. "They tried this on me once. You taught me how to fight it. Now fight for yourself." Each call ended the same way. Quiet support. No drama. Just facts. Liam cooked dinner. Simple pasta. No conversation. We ate in silence. At 8 p.m., Rachel left with the final hard drive. Marcus sent one last text. "Sleep. Tomorrow we end this." I did not sleep. I sat at the window instead. Rain had started. Steady. Cold. The street below glistened under the lamps. At 11:42 p.m., the intercom buzzed. I crossed the room, pressed the button. Derek's voice came through, wet, shaking. "Mother, I'm outside. Please, buzz me up." I said nothing. "Mother, I'm begging you, don't do this. The press is already circling. One reporter called Vanessa. They know about the hearing. If this goes public, the hedge fund loses everything. My clients will pull out. I'll be ruined." Rain pattered harder against the glass. I looked at the Platinum card on the table, then at Liam, asleep on the couch, then at the stack of exhibits ready for court. Derek's voice cracked. I was stupid. The market crashed. I needed the money, but I never meant for it to go this far. "Please, Mom, one conversation, that's all I'm asking." I leaned closer to the speaker. My voice stayed even. 12 words. "You had 23 years of conversations. You chose this one." I released the button. The intercom went dead. I watched from the window. Derek stood on the sidewalk below, suit soaked, hair plastered to his forehead. He looked up once. Our eyes did not meet. The glass was too dark. He waited 3 full minutes. Then he turned and walked away, shoulders slumped. Rain swallowing his figure. I did not move. The apartment stayed quiet. Liam breathed steady on the couch. Tomorrow, the hearing would begin. Tomorrow, the numbers would speak louder than any plea in the rain. I returned to the table, picked up the Platinum card, turned it once in my hand. Then I allowed myself one small thought before turning off the lamp. This is only part 6. The begging had just started. The Cook County Probate Courtroom smelled of polished wood and old paper. I walked in at 9:58 a.m., wearing the same navy Chanel suit I had worn the day I took over the trust after my husband died, 23 years ago. Shoulders still straight, hair still perfect. Derek sat at the respondent table in a $9,000 bespoke suit. Platinum cufflinks flashed under the fluorescent lights. Vanessa sat beside him, legs crossed, phone already recording under the table. They expected an easy victory. Marcus Reed stood beside me. Rachel Park sat in the gallery with 3 thick binders. Liam waited in the back row, black eye faded but still visible. The judge entered. Cook County Probate, Honorable Margaret Klein. She had read our 187-page opposition brief. Her face showed it. "Ms. Harrington," she said, looking at me first, "you may begin." Marcus stood. He laid out the timeline. 14 years of pristine records. Every distribution I had approved, every wire I had authorized. Then the contrast, Derek's sloppy forgeries, the petition, the medical reports signed by Dr. Langford without a single cognitive test. The judge's pen stopped moving. Rachel was called next. She approached the stand with the calm of someone who had traced $8.7 million through lies.
$4.3 million in unauthorized lifestyle expenses, she said, voice even, numbers sharp. Private jets charged to the trust.
A $1.2 million consulting contract to a company owned by Mrs. Vanessa Harrington that performed 0 documented services. Wire transfers labeled Family Wellness that went straight to personal trading accounts. She projected the first bank statement on the screen. Red highlights. Exact dates, exact amounts. Derek's face stayed composed, barely. I was called last. I stood, walked to the witness stand, sat down. Marcus handed me the email printouts. I looked directly at my son.
On April 12th of last year, I said, voice steady, my son wrote to his wife, quote, "The old lady is getting too sharp. We need to move faster before she figures out the withdrawals. She's a senile old woman who needs to be put down."
I read every word slowly. 12 words, then 14.
Each one landed like a quiet hammer. Derek's face drained of color. The tan from his last trip to Aspen disappeared. Vanessa's phone slipped from her hand. It clattered on the floor. The judge leaned forward.
"Mr. Harrington," she said, "do you have any explanation for these emails?"
Derek opened his mouth, closed it. I continued without being asked. "On June 3rd, I said, he wrote, 'Once the incompetence ruling sticks, we liquidate $2 million into the hedge fund. Mom won't know until it's gone.'" The courtroom was silent, except for the soft click of the court reporter's keys. Rachel added the next exhibit. The forged signature on the petition itself, dated 3 weeks before my birthday. Signed on a day I had spent in my trustee office approving legitimate distributions. The judge turned the page in front of her. Her expression changed from neutral to something colder. "Mr. Harrington," she said again, "do you have any explanation for why your mother's signature appears on documents dated after she was supposedly declared incompetent?" Derek looked at me. For the first time in months, he looked at me the way he had when he was 6. Small. Caught. I met his eyes without blinking. No triumph, no smile. Only the same calm I had carried since the birthday candles. The judge waited. Derek's attorney leaned in and whispered something urgent. Derek shook his head once. The silence stretched. I sat perfectly still in the navy Chanel suit. The same one I wore when I turned $2.1 million into 47. Alone. Liam watched from the back row. His shoulders were straight now. Rachel closed the final binder. Marcus stood ready with the next motion. The judge looked down at the stack of exhibits, then back at Derek. "Mr. Harrington," she said, voice low and final, "I am giving you one chance to respond before I rule on the restoration of competence." Derek's hands trembled on the table. He looked at me again. The man who had served me legal papers on my birthday. The man who had called me senile. The man who had tried to evict me from my own life. He swallowed hard. The courtroom held its breath. I waited. This was only the beginning of the reckoning. But the numbers had already spoken. Derek's mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. He swallowed hard. The courtroom lights caught the sweat on his forehead. "Your Honor," he began, voice thin, I can explain the emails. It was stress, market volatility. We were trying to protect the family." The judge raised one hand. Vanessa leaned forward, mouth already forming words. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. Eleanor has been—" "Sit down, Mrs. Harrington," the judge cut in, sharp as a gavel. "You are not counsel. One more interruption and I will hold you in contempt." Vanessa sank back into her chair, her face flushed under the makeup. Rachel stood without being asked. She walked to the evidence screen. "Permission to display the next set of statements, Your Honor?" The judge nodded once. The projector clicked on. Bank after bank statement filled the wall. Every luxury purchase highlighted in red. $280,000 for the gala the night before. Private jet to the Caymans charged to the trust. 1.2 million routed to Vanessa's LLC for content strategy that never existed. $40,000 here, $40,000 there. Every single so-called birthday gift Derek had ever bragged about. The numbers did not blink. They did not soften. I sat motionless in the navy Chanel suit. Liam was called next. He walked to the stand, 17 years old, shoulders squared, the faint yellow bruise under his eye still visible under the lights. The clerk swore him in. Marcus asked the first question. "Liam, has your father ever threatened to disown you if you spoke to your grandmother?" Liam looked straight at Derek. "Yes," he said, voice clear, no tremor. "Last week he told me if I chose grandma, I chose nothing. No college, no apartment, no trust disbursement. He said I was disloyal, just like her." Derek's hands clenched on the table. The judge's pen moved across her notepad, slow, deliberate. Rachel added the final exhibit, the forged signature on the incompetence petition, dated 3 weeks before my birthday, signed on a day I had been in my trustee office, approving legitimate distributions. The courtroom stayed silent, except for the soft tap of the court reporter's keys. The judge closed the folder in front of her. She looked at Derek for a long second. "Mr. Harrington," she said, "the petition for guardianship and conservatorship is hereby declared fraudulent. The ruling of mental incompetence is vacated in full. Eleanor Harrington is restored as sole trustee of the Harrington Family Trust, effective immediately." Derek's face went gray. The judge continued. "Further, this matter is referred to the Illinois Attorney General's Office for criminal investigation into wire fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and forgery. Mr. Harrington's personal assets and those of his wife are temporarily frozen pending full audit. The court will appoint an independent monitor for the next 90 days. The gavel came down, a single sharp crack. Marcus turned to me, his voice low. "It's over, Ellie." But it wasn't over. Not yet. We rose. I gathered the single folder I had brought. No celebration, no smile. Derek stood too fast. His chair scraped loud against the floor. In the hallway outside the courtroom, he blocked my path. Eyes red, tie loosened. The $9,000 suit suddenly looked cheap. "Mom," he said, voice cracking. "Please, I'm sorry. I was stupid. The market crashed. I needed the money." "I never meant for any of this to happen. Just talk to me. Give me a chance to fix it." Vanessa stood a few steps behind him, arms crossed tight, eyes on the floor. Liam waited beside me. Quiet. I looked at the man who had once called me a senile old woman who needed to be put down. The man who had served me legal papers on my own birthday cake. The man who had tried to erase 23 years of work with one forged signature. I met his eyes without blinking. 5 words left my mouth. Calm, final. "You are dead to me." I stepped around him. The hallway stretched long and quiet. My heels clicked once against the marble. Then again. Marcus fell in beside me. Rachel and Liam followed. Behind us, Derek did not move. The elevator doors opened. We stepped inside. The doors closed on the man who had disowned his mother. Outside, the Chicago sky was gray, but inside the elevator, the air felt lighter. The trust was mine again. The numbers had won. This was only part 8. The final silence was coming. 3 months had passed since the gavel fell in that Cook County courtroom. The Harrington Family Trust was back under my sole control. $47 million, untouched except for the precise distributions I approved myself. No more phantom consulting fees, no more private jets charged to family wellness. Derek and Vanessa lost the penthouse to foreclosure in the 2nd week. The bank statements showed it clearly. $280,000 in unpaid HOA fees, followed by the default notice. Their social media empire collapsed the same month. Sponsors dropped them one by one after the Illinois Attorney General's investigation made the headlines. Vanessa's last Instagram post had 3 likes before she deleted the account. Liam moved in with me the day after the ruling. He took the spare room in the new townhouse I purchased in Lincoln Park. Quiet street, small garden, Lake Michigan visible from the second-floor balcony. I had quietly established a college fund for him years earlier, $1.8 million, never listed in any trust ledger Derek could touch. He started classes at Northwestern last week, business and ethics. I sat at the kitchen island that morning, reviewing the latest quarterly report. Clean columns, green across the board. The doorbell rang at 11:17 a.m. I walked to the door without hurry. Navy blouse, tailored slacks, platinum card in my left hand, cool against my palm. Derek stood on the front step. No $9,000 suit today. Just a plain gray jacket, wrinkled at the elbows. He held a cheap bouquet of grocery store roses in one hand and a folded handwritten letter in the other. His eyes were sunken. The hedge fund tan had faded to nothing. "Mom," he said, voice hoarse. "Please, just read this. I've written everything." How sorry I am. How I've lost everything. The clients are gone. The bank froze the rest. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch. I need anything, even scraps from the trust. I'm begging you. He extended the letter. I did not take it. Instead, I looked at the man who had once slid court papers across my birthday cake. The man who had called me senile in emails. The man who had tried to evict me with 2 suitcases and a smirk. Liam appeared behind me in the hallway. He stopped at the threshold, but said nothing. I spoke 5 words first. "You had your chance." Derek's shoulders dropped. The roses trembled in his grip. "Mom, I was desperate. The market, the pressure. Vanessa pushed me. I see it now. I was wrong, completely wrong. I disowned you, I know that. But I'm your son, blood. Family." I turned the platinum card once between my fingers. The raised Centurion logo caught the morning light. "Blood," I repeated. The word tasted like the tea I had sipped that first night alone in the Oak Park apartment. Interesting choice of word after you forged my signature and tried to bury me alive. He swallowed. "I'll sign anything. A repayment plan, a gag order, whatever you want. Just help me. One time. 50,000, even 20, enough to get back on my feet." I let the silence stretch. 12 seconds. 14. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out a single check, already written, $1. I handed it to him. Derek stared at the paper. $1? I nodded once. "That is the exact amount of mercy you showed me on my 68th birthday. Take it. Cash it if you can. Or frame it. Your choice." His face crumpled. Not rage, not defiance, something smaller. "Mom, please." I closed the door. Not slammed. Closed. The latch clicked with the same soft finality as the courtroom gavel. Liam stood behind me. "You okay, Grandma?" he asked quietly. I turned. "Better than okay," I said. We walked back to the kitchen together. I poured tea. No milk, no sugar. 1 cup for me, 1 for him. Outside, the balcony waited. The lake stretched wide and calm under the October sky. I stepped out, sat in the wicker chair, and sipped slowly. The phone on the table stayed silent. No more panicked calls from Vanessa, no more late-night pleas from Derek. The social media notifications had stopped weeks ago. 3 months of quiet justice. The trust was mine. The dignity was mine. The peace was mine. I watched a single sailboat cut across the water, white against blue. No anger left, no sorrow, only the clean satisfaction of numbers that finally balanced. Liam joined me a minute later. He sat in the other chair. "You really gave him $1?" he asked. I allowed the smallest smile. Exactly what he earned. We sat in silence after that. The kind of silence money cannot buy and betrayal cannot break. I finished the tea, set the cup down. The Centurion card rested beside it, heavy and permanent. This was the final silence. The one I had built with 14 years of records, one forged signature, and the coldest determination I had ever known. I looked out at the lake and spoke to no one in particular. Perfect. I won. What would you have done in my place? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story of quiet justice moved you, like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more long-form dramas where the numbers always tell the truth. See you in the next one.